Every name on this list is connected to at least one other name on it. Some connect to all of them. They shared stages, shared substances, shared managers and record deals. They moved through the same cities, played the same festivals, watched each other from the wings. And nearly all of them had one thing in common. They got up in front of thousands of people while they were high. Not once, not occasionally, routinely. The question this list answers is not just who did it. It is how a generation of musicians, wired to each other and to the same era, shaped the entire architecture of classic rock by doing it. Number 10, John Bonham, Led Zeppelin. Where Joplin drank through the pain, the next name on this list drank through the power. John Bonham was the drummer for Led Zeppelin, widely considered the greatest hard rock drummer who ever lived. And for much of the 1970s, he was doing it drunk. There is a thread running through this list that connects number 12 to number 1, not just the substances, though those overlap, but a lineage, a direct line. Watch for it as we go. Bonham came out of Redditch, England. He started playing drums as a teenager and had a natural force at the kit that was almost physically impossible to account for. When Led Zeppelin broke through in 1969, Bonham was one of the central reasons. His playing on When the Levee Breaks and Moby Dick did not sound like one man on a drum kit. It sounded like a weather system. And alongside that immense talent was an equally immense appetite for alcohol, whiskey and vodka before shows, Jack Daniels during. He was known to play with such explosive force that his hands bled through performances. He kept playing. And here is where the connection runs. Led Zeppelin shared the concert circuit with almost every other name on this list. They played festivals where Joplin performed. They moved through the same orbit as Morrison. Bonham understood from the inside what that world looked like. The drummer in a machine that ran, in part, on controlled excess. He knew what the cost was. He watched it happen around him. He watched it happen to him. By the late 1970s, the control was slipping. The 1977 North American tour saw Bonham in increasingly rough shape. Those closest to Led Zeppelin understood what was happening and did not know what to do about it. The band's world was becoming something none of them had planned for. Backstage accounts described the weight of it. On stage, the power was still there, but something underneath was giving way. Once you see this, you hear the later Zeppelin recordings differently. The slight looseness, the moments where the machine seems to be operating slightly outside itself, that is not sloppiness. That is a man who is metabolically enormous, playing at the edge of what his body can sustain. John Bonham died on September 25, 1980. He was 32. He had consumed an extraordinary amount of vodka, reportedly around 40 measures in 12 hours, and was found unresponsive at Jimmy Page's house in Berkshire. Led Zeppelin disbanded within weeks, releasing a statement that without Bonham, it was simply impossible to continue. They were right. Sometimes the foundation cannot hold what it is built to support. Number 9. Graham Parsons. The Byrds, Flying Burrito Brothers. Here is the connection nobody always makes explicit. Graham Parsons is on this list because he is the link between almost everything else on it. Along the way, he developed what he called cosmic American music, a merger of country, rock, R&B, and soul that nobody had attempted at that scale before. What became the Eagles started, in significant part, from watching Graham Parsons work, and he was almost always high when they were watching. Here is where the map extends. Parsons befriended Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones in 1971. He lived at Richards' villa, Nelcote, on the French Riviera, while the Stones recorded Exile on Main Street. By early 1970, Parsons was powerfully addicted to heroin. His addiction had gotten so extreme during his time in the Stones' inner circle that the Rolling Stones themselves grew uncomfortable with it. Recording sessions for his solo material were described as filled with cocaine and heroin, but not much music. On tour with the Flying Burrito Brothers, and later as a solo artist, with Emmylou Harris on harmonies. And if you have ever wondered where the Eagles' sound actually originated, go back and listen to The Gilded Palace of Sin. That blueprint was created by men in altered states. And Parsons died at Joshua Tree on September 19, 1973. He was 26. His road manager stole his coffin from the airport and drove it into the desert to cremate it in an improvised ceremony, honoring a pact they had made at a friend's funeral. The music Parsons left behind, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, The Gilded Palace of Sin, Grievous Angel, is foundational. Rolling Stone has since named him one of the 100 greatest artists of all time. He just never got to stand on the foundation he built.
Look at the numbers, only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
Number 8. Jerry Garcia, The Grateful Dead. This is where the map goes west. Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead were the house band of the California psychedelic movement, and Garcia himself was the thread running through the entire Haight-Ashbury era and beyond. But there is a version of his story that the official narrative skips past quickly. Follow it. The Grateful Dead formed in 1965 in San Francisco. By 1966, they were performing as the house band at Ken Kesey's acid tests, events designed explicitly around the communal use of LSD. Garcia was not adjacent to the psychedelic movement. He was inside it, performing inside it, building his guitar style inside it. When people talk about the Dead experience, the open-ended jams, the music that seemed to go somewhere nobody had planned, a significant part of that experience was created by a man who was himself chemically altered. In real time, in front of thousands of people who were often doing the same thing from the audience side. And if you have ever wondered why the Grateful Dead sounded different from every other rock band of the era, this is part of the answer. Garcia was not performing a song. He was navigating something live. The feedback loop between his state and the music was complete. You were hearing what it sounded like when an improvising musician was inside the experience he was making. By the early 1970s, cocaine had entered the picture. Garcia began using it on tour to manage the relentless effects of constant performance. During a band hiatus in 1975, he was introduced to a smokable form of heroin. Multiple accounts describe this as the moment everything shifted. His addiction grew to an estimated $700 a day habit that shaped the band's financial situation, their touring schedule, and their dynamics. By 1983, audiences could see something different in Garcia's eyes on stage. You just connected that to something else, because a $700 a day habit does not stay invisible when you are the center of a performance. The Dead's later shows were not worse because Garcia stopped caring. They were uneven because Garcia was trying to maintain something that was consuming him from the inside. The art and the addiction were fighting for the same ground. Jerry Garcia died in August 1995 at a rehabilitation facility in Marin County. He was 53. His heart gave out. Years of tobacco, diet, and hard drugs had caught up with one of the most gifted improvisational musicians in rock history. The Grateful Dead were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994. Garcia skipped the ceremony. His bandmates brought a cardboard cutout of him to the stage. Even in absentia, he was the center of the map. Number 7, Syd Barrett, Pink Floyd. Here is the line between Jerry Garcia and the next on the list. Both were the creative center of their bands. Both were destroyed by the substances that initially powered them. But Syd Barrett's collapse happened faster, more publicly, and on a stage where his bandmates watched in real time and did not know what to do. Barrett was the co-founder and original frontman of Pink Floyd. He wrote the band's first singles, Arnold Lane and See Emily Play, and their 1967 debut album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which hit number 6 on the UK charts. The band was one of the most exciting acts in British rock, and then LSD took Barrett somewhere he never came back from. By late 1967, the deterioration was visible on stage. During the American tour that fall, Barrett stood at the microphone and detuned his guitar strings one by one during performances, playing the discord as if it were the point. He stared catatonically at the hosts during American television appearances. During a segment on Dick Clark's American Bandstand, he did not move, did not speak, did not perform. And here is the connection that changes how you hear Pink Floyd. David Gilmour, Barrett's old friend, who would eventually replace him, visited the band during the recording of See Emily Play in May 1967. He looked at Barrett and said later, "I got to know that look pretty well, and I'll go on record as saying that was when he changed. It was a shock. He was a different person." Gilmour was brought in by December 1967 to cover for Barrett when he was unable to perform or failed to appear. The Pink Floyd that became one of the biggest bands in history, Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, exists because Syd Barrett took too much LSD on a stage in 1967. The band you know was built in the space he left behind. The details that survived are haunting. Before one performance in late 1967, Barrett reportedly rubbed a mixture including Brill-Cream hair cream into his hair, which melted under the heat of the stage lights and ran down his face. Witnesses said he looked like, in one account, a guttered candle. His band watched this happen. They kept playing. By March 1968, he was gone from the group he had founded. Once you see this connection, you hear Shine On You Crazy Diamond differently. That song, written years after Barrett left, is Pink Floyd's tribute to their lost founder. Roger Waters wrote it for the man who created the band and then disappeared inside himself. In 1975, while the band was recording that very song at Abbey Road, Barrett walked into the studio unannounced. Overweight, head shaved, unrecognizable. It took his former bandmates several minutes to realize who he was. They wept. Syd Barrett spent the rest of his life away from music, painting, and gardening in Cambridge. He died in 2006 at the age of 60. Pink Floyd's catalog, one of the best-selling in rock history, is, in a meaningful sense, the monument his bandmates built to explain what happened to him. The people who built the foundation rarely get to stand on top of it. Number 6, Keith Richards, The Rolling Stones. This is where the map doubles back on itself. Keith Richards has already appeared in this list once, as Graham Parsons' closest friend and drug companion at the Villa Nelcote in 1971. Now he earns his own entry. Because what Richards was doing on stage in the mid-1970s was not just substance use. It was a system. Richards began his serious relationship with heroin in the late 1960s. Around the time he began dating model and actress Anita Pallenberg. By the time of Exile on Main Street in 1972, he was deeply addicted, passing out during recording sessions, requiring a tour doctor on the 1972 American road. The Exile sessions became legendary for what got made despite the circumstances. Observers marveled at Richards' ability to produce guitar work that sounds like the best pure rock and roll ever recorded, while strung out on levels that would have rendered most human beings unable to function. And here is where the story shifts from excess to architecture. For the 1975 Tour of the Americas, Richards and New Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood had hiding spaces built directly into the stage, spaces within the amplifier banks where lines of cocaine were laid out. One song, one bump was the rule between Ronnie and me, Richards later wrote in his memoir Life. He also had heroin-laced cigarettes, what the crew called dirty fags, placed in the amplifier setup for access between songs. This was not chaos. This was an engineered delivery system. He built the high into the stage itself. The Rolling Stones on stage in 1975 were one of the greatest live acts in rock history. That is not in dispute. What is also not in dispute is that their guitarist was, for most of that decade, conducting the performance from within a state of chemical alteration that would have rendered most human beings non-functional. He played through it with a slouching, inevitable authority that became his entire aesthetic. The music did not sound impaired. It sounded like the Stones. Some of you already connected this to someone else on this list. Richards was the person Joe Walsh said taught me how to break things. He was the person who shared a substance world with Graham Parsons and a stage orbit with almost every other name on this countdown. He is not just a node on the map. He is a hub. Richards was arrested in Canada in February 1977, roughly an ounce of heroin found in his hotel room. He was facing a potential trafficking charge that could have ended the Stones' career entirely. He eventually kicked heroin in 1979. He has described the Stones' mid-1970s output as the peak of their creative power. The records support that claim. What he was on when he made them is not a footnote, it is part of the explanation. Number 5, David Bowie. Here is the line from Keith Richards to David Bowie. Both were performing in the mid-1970s through a chemical haze dense enough to reshape their public identities. But Bowie took it further, because Bowie's cocaine use did not just affect his performances, it created one of the most distinctive stage personae in rock history, and then tried to destroy the man inside it. Bowie's serious cocaine use began around his American tours of 1972 and 1973, as he built the Ziggy Stardust character into a global phenomenon. By 1975, he was living in Los Angeles, surviving on a diet of red peppers, milk, and cocaine. He was awake for days at a time. He weighed approximately 95 pounds. The recording sessions for Station to Station in autumn 1975 took place at the height of his addiction, and Bowie would later state that he had no memory of making the album. None. Not the sessions, not the songs, not the arrangements. It's time to leave the capsule if you dare. He was functionally absent from one of his own greatest records, and here is the connection that reframes the whole Bowie story. Wikipedia's account of the Isolore 2 World Tour of 1978 states specifically that it was Bowie's first tour for 5 years, in which he had probably not anesthetized himself with copious quantities of cocaine before taking the stage. First tour in 5 years, which means every major tour from approximately 1973 through 1976, Diamond Dogs, Station to Station, he was walking out on stage having anesthetized himself with cocaine. What you were watching when you saw Bowie as Ziggy or the Thin White Duke was, start to finish, a cocaine performance. The Thin White Duke persona, introduced on the Station to Station tour of 1976, was, Bowie later acknowledged, a direct manifestation of cocaine psychosis. The character was an emotionless, aristocratic figure with fascist aesthetic overtones. In interviews during this period, Bowie made statements that appeared sympathetic to fascism. He later attributed all of it to, in his own words, cocaine psychosis. His mental state was such that he stored his urine and nail clippings in the refrigerator to protect himself from what he described as black magic. And the stars look very different today. The person who helped pull him out of it was Iggy Pop. Iggy, who is on this list for his own reasons, had checked himself into a psychiatric facility in Los Angeles. Bowie visited him. Eventually, they moved to West Berlin together, specifically to remove themselves from the enablers and the dealers. They made records together, The Idiot, Lust for Life, that are now considered landmarks. The two most drug-damaged musicians on this countdown helped each other survive. That is one of the most important connections in rock history. Bowie cleaned up. He made Scary Monsters and Let's Dance and Black Star. He lived to 69, but the music he made during the cocaine years, the Ziggy Stardust records, Station to Station, the Berlin Trilogy. Those albums are, arguably, the artistic peak. The darkest fuel made the brightest light, and then the light almost went out. Number 4, Iggy Pop, The Stooges.
Face to face.
Back to 1967, to a house party in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and a performance nobody who was there ever forgot.
Now I'm ready to close my eyes.
Iggy Pop is the godfather of punk not just because of the music the Stooges made, it is because of what he was willing to do on stage, in whatever state he happened to be in, and what he did with what he had learned from watching someone else.
In my room, I want you here.
The Psychedelic Stooges debuted on Halloween 1967. Iggy wore a thrift shop nightdress and a tinfoil wig.
I'm ready to close my mind.
He sat on the floor playing Hawaiian guitar with all strings tuned to the same note, then made noise with a theremin, a vacuum cleaner, and a blender half filled with water, into which he inserted a microphone. It was not recognizable as a performance.
And I'll lay right down in my favorite place.
The band was signed to Elektra Records in 1968, following notably in the footsteps of The Doors, who were Elektra's biggest act at the time. Their first 2 albums, The Stooges and Funhouse, sold poorly, but they inspired everything. And here is where the seeds of someone else on this list were directly planted. Iggy Pop's stage persona was inspired by watching Jim Morrison perform at the University of Michigan in 1967. Documented accounts of that period are specific. Morrison's extreme behavior while performing in a popular band inspired the young Pop to push the boundaries of what a front person could do on stage. What Iggy did with what he learned, the self-laceration, the crowd diving, the confrontational staging, was the amplification of what Morrison had started. The teacher and the student are both on this list. And the line between them is direct. By the early 1970s, Iggy's heroin addiction had become the organizing principle of his professional life. The Stooges were dropped from their label in 1971, partly because of the group's growing addictions. In one documented incident, the night before a Stooges show in Atlanta, Iggy was so intoxicated on Quaaludes that he passed out in the bushes beside the Days Inn. He was found there. He was then given speed to make it on stage. He made it on stage. Mid-performance, Elton John, wearing a gorilla suit as a prank, appeared. Iggy later said, "I couldn't fight him. I could barely stand." The Stooges' last show is documented on an album called Metallic KO, recorded in 1974 at a gig where the audience threw bottles and objects at the stage, and a fight broke out between the band and a group of bikers. Iggy kept going. That is not bravery. That is what happens when a man is on something that overrides self-preservation. It is one of the most harrowing live recordings in rock history. Iggy Pop checked into the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute in 1975. Bowie came to visit and brought drugs. The hospital staff politely declined them, but the connection between Bowie and Iggy held, and they moved to West Berlin together the following year. Iggy eventually got clean. He released Lust for Life in 1977, containing 2 of the most enduring rock songs of the decade. He made it to the other side, and once you see this, you understand what Bowie and Iggy were to each other. The only person alive who knew exactly what the other one had been through. Two people who had stared into the same thing and survived together.
In my room, I want you here.
Number 3. Keith Moon, The Who. Keith Moon was the most technically brilliant rock drummer of his era. He was also, for much of his career, performing in a state of such profound intoxication that he regularly passed out at the kit. Both of those things are true. They are not in conflict. That is the paradox that is Keith Moon. Moon joined The Who in 1964 at the age of 17. By the time of My Generation in 1965, he had become the signature element of one of the most important bands in British rock. His drumming, explosive, tom-heavy, relentless, never once choosing a traditional pattern when a chaotic one was available, redefined what a rock drummer was. And from the very beginning, the drugs and alcohol were built into the architecture. His bandmate Roger Daltrey said, "I've seen him take 25 leapers, amphetamines, and then drink a bottle of brandy many times. This was not occasional." According to multiple documented accounts, Moon's morning routine in the 1970s included sausages, eggs, a bottle of champagne, half a bottle of Courvoisier brandy, and 2 dexedrine tablets. And here is the connection that changes how you hear The Who. Moon's drumming was, in part, a chemically maintained state of performance. Amphetamines gave him the energy to play at the speed and force he played. The alcohol came alongside it. Pete Townshend and Moon fought constantly, not just about personality, but because Moon's intoxication rendered him incapable, at moments, of maintaining what the band required.
What happened?
The friction between his genius and his excess is audible in everything they recorded. In 1973, during a Who show in San Francisco, Moon collapsed on his drum kit. He had taken tranquilizers. He was unresponsive for hours. Groupies carried him off stage. In 1976, he passed out again at a show at Boston Garden. The following night, he destroyed his hotel room and was found bleeding from a cut. His manager brought him to a hospital. Doctors told the manager that Moon would have bled to death without the intervention. By 1976, there was talk of firing him, but the band feared it would only accelerate his descent. The connections run in every direction from Moon. Keith Richards, who has already appeared on this list, once spent time with Moon in Los Angeles, and Joe Walsh said, "Moon taught me how to break things." Alice Cooper was a close friend and observer. "He never got tired," Cooper said, and it wasn't because of drugs necessarily. He was just one of those guys who never got tired. Cooper was wrong. It was the drugs. The chemistry was holding the performance together, even as it dismantled the person inside it. Keith Moon died on September 7, 1978. He was 32. He overdosed on heminevrin, a drug prescribed specifically to help him stop drinking. 26 undissolved pills were found in his stomach at autopsy. He died from the medicine designed to save him. He died in the same London apartment where Cass Elliot of the Mamas and the Papas had died 4 years earlier. The Who were already one of the greatest live acts in rock history. Without Moon, they never played the same way again. Number 2, Jimi Hendrix.
I got the money, but I don't know
Jimi Hendrix was performing at the Monterey Pop Festival in June 1967 while on LSD. He lit his guitar on fire at the end of the set. What you are watching in that footage is not a man executing a rehearsed stunt. You are watching one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived, in an altered state, at the exact moment he became a legend. The timeline matters. Hendrix came from Seattle. He played backup for Little Richard and the Isley Brothers before relocating to England, where he was discovered by Animal's bassist Chas Chandler in 1966. The Jimi Hendrix Experience formed that same year. Within months, 3 UK top 10 singles. By 1967, he was the most talked about guitarist on the planet, and by 1967, according to multiple documented accounts,
Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
he was regularly using drugs on tour: LSD, cocaine, marijuana, amphetamines. The Monterey performance, with LSD in his system on stage, was that same year. And here is where the connection extends to everything else on this list. Hendrix's innovation, the wah-wah pedal, amplifier feedback, the extended sonic landscapes of Purple Haze and Voodoo Child, was developed in part inside an altered state. His guitar style did not emerge from a clear head and disciplined practice alone. It emerged from a musician who was constantly pushing at the edges of what his own perception could accommodate. The LSD and the music were part of the same experiment. You cannot fully separate them. Once you know it, you hear the recordings differently. By 1969, Hendrix was in serious trouble. In May, customs agents at Toronto Airport detained him after finding what they suspected was heroin and hashish in his luggage. He was released on $10,000 bail just in time to perform at Maple Leaf Gardens that night. He went on stage. He was jovial with the audience, joking and singing mock opera. He had been arrested for drug possession hours earlier. By June of that year, his heroin addiction was worsening and affecting performances. He headlined Woodstock in August 1969, the festival that was the convergence point of the entire world we have been mapping. Some of you already connected this to someone else on the list, because Woodstock in 1969 was where almost everything we have been mapping intersected. Janis Joplin performed there. The Grateful Dead performed there. Joe Cocker performed there. Hendrix headlined it and closed the event. By that point, the substance use was not private. It was visible on stage, in inconsistent performances, in sets that started late. The greatest guitarist in rock history was running on a damaged system and still doing things nobody else could do. Jimi Hendrix died on September 18, 1970. He was 27. He was the first of what became a devastating sequence of losses. Joplin followed in October of that same year. Morrison in July 1971. Three of the most important performers of the era, gone within 13 months of each other, all connected to the same cultural moment, the same substances, the same world. Hendrix was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1992. Rolling Stone called him arguably the greatest instrumentalist in the history of rock music. He made virtually all of his recordings in 4 years. Number 1, Jim Morrison, The Doors.
People astray.
You know the name, you know the songs. But knowing a name and knowing where it actually sits on this map are two different things. Jim Morrison is number 1 because he is the point from which almost everything else on this list can be traced.
You're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted.
Morrison met Ray Manzarek on Venice Beach in 1965. The Doors signed to Elektra Records, the same label that would later sign Iggy Pop Stooges, and released their debut in 1967. Light My Fire went to number 1. Morrison was 23, already drinking heavily, and performing in a state his bandmates described as unpredictable and sometimes frightening. The performances were extraordinary. The volatility was built in, and here is the connection that changes the shape of this entire list. Iggy Pop watched Morrison perform at the University of Michigan in 1967. What Iggy built from that, the confrontational stage presence, the chemical recklessness treated as art, was the direct descendant of what Morrison was doing. And Iggy's influence ran forward into Bowie, into punk, into everything that came after, and called itself dangerous. Follow this thread and you trace a line from a drunk poet on a stage in 1967 to the shape of rock for the next 50 years. In Miami in March 1969, Morrison allegedly exposed himself on stage. He was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 6 months. By a Seattle show in June 1970,
You're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted.
his deterioration was being captured on tape. Drinking during performances, stopping to ramble at the crowd, voice giving out. He could not stop. Now go back and listen to the first entry on this list. Joe Cocker's Roxy fiasco, described as rambling and incoherent, is a direct descendant of the Morrison model.
No one remembers your name when you're strange.
The idea that intoxication and performance could coexist on a major stage, that the audience would stay, Morrison established that.
When you're strange, faces come out.
Every name here is living in a world he built. Jim Morrison died in Paris on July 3, 1971. He was 27, no autopsy. His girlfriend found him in the bathtub.
When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're...
He is buried at Père Lachaise, where his grave remains one of the most visited in Paris. He is still at the center of the map.
When you're down, when you're strange, face...
Everything on this list connects back to him. Now that you see it, go back and listen to entry 12 again. It sounds different.
The rain, when you're strange.